Hello, and welcome to Don Hammond's Arlington Weekly News. I'm Daniel Pineda. We have a great program today. We have our news stories, community bulletin board, and 55 plus news. But first, a social media reminder. You can watch the Arlington Weekly News on our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Arlington Weekly News and the number 1. Also on Facebook and WERA 96.7 FM. And now on to our first news story for today. As of Sunday morning, June 20th, reports show the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in Arlington increased slightly by 9, up to 15,301. However, we at Don Hammond's Arlington Weekly News will continue to monitor the situation in case of a post-Memorial Day surge. As for vaccinations, as of June 18th, 141,218 Arlingtonians have received at least one dose of the COVID-19 vaccine, and the number having received 2 doses was 122,794. Arlington's total population is listed at 231,803, but not all of them are eligible. Detailed census data is not easy to obtain, but our best estimate of Arlington's population under the age of 12 is about 19,000. Subtracting that figure from the total population yields 212,803. Based upon the calculation, the percentage of eligible Arlingtonians who are at least partially vaccinated is about 66%. Hopefully, the recent expansion of eligibility will help this number improve. On June 15th, County Board Chair Matt DeFerranti delivered the annual State of the County address. The session was hosted by the Arlington Chamber of Commerce and was held virtually. In his remarks, DeFerranti noted that the county was in the process of a second grant program to assist small businesses. He also mentioned that there were indications of economy recovery. However, he urged attendees to consider additional measures as well. He declared that we have not yet realized the economic renewal we want and need. Throughout his address, DeFerranti observed that the effects of the pandemic also highlighted instances of inequities in housing, health, and public safety within the county. Concerning the county's overall role, he said, an era of inclusive economic growth, of housing policies that enable us to have a safe and healthy place to live, and an era where we want to ensure all Arlingtonians have access to food. That's the spirit we need. That's our goal as we recover and work toward a new era of renewal. The annual event also honored public safety personnel and first responders from Arlington County's Fire Department, Police Department, Office of Public Safety Communications, Emergency Management, and Office of the Sheriff. And now on to our next news story for today. Meanwhile, birds are still dying at an unusually high rate across the county and throughout the greater area of Virginia, Maryland, Washington, D.C., and even West Virginia. Authorities remain divided as what the cause is. Some say that it's the result of residents using insecticides to combat the recent cicada surge. Others suspect a bacterial disease. The Animal Welfare League of Arlington posted the following message. We are asking Arlington County and DNV residents to bring their bird feeders inside for the time being. Due to the unknown illness in local birds, we are looking to take as many precautions as possible to keep illness from spreading, and bird feeders can be a common source of illness. According to Animal Welfare Control Chief Jennifer Toussaint, we have continued to send our specimens for further testing but have not received any conclusive test results. We will immediately alert the public once we know what is going on, and we are making these additional suggestions just to lessen the possibility of this illness spreading from bird to bird at this time. If a bird feeder is too large or difficult to move, residents are encouraged to clean it with a 10% bleach solution. July 4th falls on a Sunday this year, so Arlington County government offices, courts, libraries, and facilities will be closed on Monday, July 5th. The Virginia Department of Motor Vehicles will also be closed. Parking meters will not be enforced. Although the county has yet to post details, it appears that trash and recycling pickups will take place on their normal schedule. This is based on prior year's practice. And now on to our last news story for today. Vehicle thefts in Arlington County are reportedly on increase. Here are two incidents from June 10th. On the 3400 block of North Edison Street, a 2011 Ford Explorer and a 2013 Infiniti SUV were stolen. During the subsequent investigation, police discovered that 4 other vehicles in the area had been tampered with. Later, on the 3500 block of 8th Street South, 4 vehicles were tampered with. Nearby, a 2018 Mercedes-Benz GLC was stolen from the 3500 block of 6th Street South. In addition, there have been recent instances of home burglaries in which keys have been taken from unlocked vehicles and used to steal items from the homes. The Arlington County Police Department encourages residents to lock the homes and vehicles and to keep valuables out of sight. Well, that does it for the news. Now on to our community bulletin board stories for this week.
Hi, and welcome to CBB. Our first CBB events will be about upcoming Independence Day celebrations. We'll start off with the return of the U.S. Air Force Band's Summer Concert Series. Some of the performances will take place right here in Arlington. All of their concerts are free and open to the public, and no tickets are required. However, there may be a cancellation due to inclement weather. For more information, you can go to the band's Twitter account @USAF or check out their Facebook page. The next concert is coming up on Sunday, July 4th at 8 o'clock p.m. at the Air Force Memorial, 1 Air Force Memorial Drive. That's just off Columbia Pike on the south side of the Arlington National Cemetery. Next, the Waycroft Woodlawn Civic Association is planning on a scaled-down version of their traditional 4th of July neighborhood parade. They're still working out the details, but the event usually includes a bike parade and a kind of decoration challenge. Participants can create either yard signs or sidewalk chalk art. The color theme, of course, will be red, white, and blue. Do-it-yourself packs are available at 4819 15th Street North. Next up. Okay, we get it. Some people just have to watch live fireworks. They can't help it. They even have to. Afflicted Arlingtons have few options. They can take a trip out to nearby Fairfax to watch their free fireworks along with an evening show. That's on Sunday, July 4th, starting at 6:30 p.m. at Fairfax High School, 3501 Lyon Road in Fairfax, Virginia. The phone number is 703-385-7949. Alternatively, Arlingtonians can just stroll or drive around Arlington neighborhoods and enjoy smaller sets of fireworks that some of the residents shoot off on an informal basis. For that matter, they can just buy their own fireworks and entertain their neighbors. However, there's a lot to be said for just sitting back and watching the televised displays from the comfort of your own home. It may not be as exciting, but it saves money on insect repellent. Finally, in CBB, Arlington Independent Media is conducting a virtual movie and animation camp for kids 8 to 13 years old. Using smartphones or iPads, along with art supplies, costumes, and props from their homes, campers will create short film and animation projects that will air on AIM TV and be available to the world on YouTube. Group Zoom sessions will take place at 9 o'clock a.m., 12:30 p.m., and 3 o'clock p.m. each day of camp. At these sessions, campers will work together under the guidance of our camp instructors to learn video and stop-motion animation techniques, play games, craft stories, receive production assignments, and share creations with the group. All projects will be screened at a mini-fest on the last day of the camp. The 2-week sessions start on July 6th and end on July 16th. The camp fee is $325. For additional information, you can call Jackie Stephen at 703-524-2388 or visit www.arlingtonmedia.org. Again, this is a virtual event. Now it's time for 55 Plus News.
Howdy, and welcome to 55 Plus News. Our first event is called Acoustic Hour in the Park. It's a chance to watch and listen to some great live music in the park. Carl Gold will perform songs from the 1950s right on up to today. I don't know about you, but I'm waiting to see how he does with rap. Anyway, you can register online or call 703-228-4747. Activity number is 914-802-10, and that's coming up on Wednesday, June 30th from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock p.m. at Virginia Highlands Park, 1600 South Hayes Street. You gotta be 55 and up, and 55 plus membership is required. Next up, the Arlington Library 55 Plus Book Club continues with its selections of provocative titles. This month, they have chosen to discuss Evicted, Poverty and Profit in the American City by Matthew Desmond. In this nonfiction book, Princeton sociologist Matthew Desmond follows 8 families in Milwaukee as they each struggle to keep a roof over their heads. The reviewer for The Nation hailed it as wrenching and revelatory, while the New York Review of Books called it vivid and unsettling. Evicted, Poverty and Profit in the American City was written to transform the common understanding of poverty and economic exploitation. It also provides fresh ideas for solving one of 21st century America's most devastating problems. It reminds readers of the centrality of home, without which nothing else is possible. Until further notice, this group will meet via Zoom. For the Zoom meeting information, register for the group's email list. The easiest way is to look on the Arlington Library website under Events and then select the 55 Plus Book Club. Registrants will receive the Zoom meeting information by email 1 day prior to the event. That's coming up on Friday, July 2nd from 12 o'clock noon to 1 o'clock p.m. The event is recommended for ages 55 and up, but 55 plus membership is not required. This is a virtual event. Next up is an event called Rock Music Legends in the Movies. Rock music has been at the center of several great movies such as A Hard Day's Night, Rock Around the Clock, and Tommy. You can join Carl Gold for a discussion and some musical performances featuring songs from several of these movies. Register online or call 703-228-4747. The activity number is 914-400-10. That's coming up on Tuesday, July 6th from 1:30 to 2:45 p.m. You gotta be 55 and up, and 55 plus membership is required. Unlike the park event, this is a virtual event. Finally, our last event is called Local History Discussions and Reminiscences. And it's just a chance to have some fun remembering and learning about Arlington's rich past. In July, the topic will be the Lee Heights Shopping Center. That's where it'll start anyway. Once all these old folks get going, you never know what'll come up. As a matter of fact, that reminds me of the time when... What? Oh, where was I? Then in August, you can join in talking about history of transportation in Arlington with Charlie Clark. Charlie is also known in the Falls Church News Press as Our Man in Arlington, and he's no spring chicken himself. The discussion will be facilitated by volunteer Gene Jackson. You can register online or call 703-228-4747. The activity number is 914-402-11. That's coming up on Wednesday, July 7th from 1:30 to 2:45 p.m. You gotta be 55 and up, and 55 plus membership is required. It is a virtual event. Anyway, that's all I got for 55 plus news.
We are fortunate to have with us an advocate for the improvement of the online communications we need and will continue to need in the future. His name is Tim Dempsey, and I'll turn the microphone over to him now.
So my name is Tim Dempsey. I'm an Arlington resident of, I moved here in 2011, so 10 years now almost. I have been active in Arlington politics for quite a while, and mostly kind of centered on these kind of community projects. But in short, the group that I'm representing right now is Arlington Fiber, RL Fiber, as we tend to call ourselves. We started as a group, or we started organizing as a group about 2 or 3 years ago, and we had been looking to do some economic development projects in South Arlington, based on just some statistics and reports we had read coming out of the county and some other nonprofit groups, looking at the various social indicators, and especially in places like 22204. And one of my collaborators, Detta Kissel, she had been doing a lot of work doing voter registration in the affordable housing complexes in this area, and she's also very interested in economic development projects there. So, we had been looking initially at doing some things like co-ops, and then to not go too deep into all the history, but we had found out, based on some interactions with some other people who are working in the broadband space for Arlington, that actually been advising the county on using their dark fiber network. So Arlington has an existing what's called dark fiber network. It's basically a public network that they use for public buildings, the schools, community centers, for their internal government operations. But they also have a lot of fiber optic lines that are dark, and that are not lit by equipment, basically, that would convey a signal that would provide data. So we had found out that they have an abundance of this dark fiber, and they were looking to actually lease it, but had not been very successful in it. So kind of long story short, our idea had been, well, what if, we know that there's, based on some of the reports we've seen from the county, that they had estimated something like 10% or more of the county, particularly in this area, households did not have access to internet at home. And so we had this idea that we would maybe try to form a kind of broadband cooperative that would lease this fiber and provide kind of low cost, high quality, high speed service to some of these areas, particularly some of these buildings. So that's how we had kind of started out a few years ago. But then as we started organizing, we started going into the buildings and going door to door to gather survey information on what people's current internet usage was, and if they had internet and what kind of internet they were using, and what their needs were. And that was kind of ongoing. And then the pandemic hit, and we saw everything kind of shut down. Everything was moving online, and we knew that this, we knew based on our work that this was going to set up a major crisis, and that became pretty clear to the news reading public as well. There's a lot of stories that started coming out about lack of access. In fact, Washington Post in May had a big story on internet access in Arlington, and how because Arlington, even though Arlington had this kind of robust public network, it wasn't actually able to use it easily anyway for the purposes of providing service to these families and these apartment buildings and households that were just basically underserved or unserved due to anything from cost, the cost of signing up for internet, or for some digital literacy issues, or acquiring the proper equipment to use high-speed internet, et cetera. So we had then at that point kind of pivoted from trying to, as amateurs, and none of us were experts on any of these things. So we kind of pivoted from doing that kind of work on how can we start co-op to, hey, maybe we need to figure out how the county can just provide internet itself to these people. And we were well aware that there are plenty of communities around the United States, and even here in Virginia, that have a public internet service model where the public organized a local locally owned internet service provider, and many of them are doing fantastic work on digital divide and providing really high speed, low cost service to the residents. So we thought if Arlington's already done all this work to build out its own public network, how hard could it be to move on from there to doing a public network of some sort. So then what we pivoted to ultimately was to try to get the county to look into doing forming what is basically what's called a broadband authority, which is basically a kind of separate public utility that under VA law would allow them to use their existing network to provide internet access to whoever they want, frankly, but concentrating maybe on the areas that are most underserved right now. So then we hooked up with some other groups that were doing digital equity access work here in the county. There's a particular group called Abuelitas, which is a group of retired teachers that had been working with English language learners to try to help them through the pandemic. And these teachers said these families don't have access at home, and that's just a tragedy because we have to work with these kids on WhatsApp on a phone that doesn't have unlimited data plan, and it's just a nightmare. So they really believed in this kind of work. So we teamed up with them, and we've kind of made other allies as we've gone along, but that was the kind of common core of the group. And so what we've been doing is just agitating for the board to look into this option of creating what's called this broadband authority, which once again is a public service authority. And under Virginia law and under many state laws, generally this is the way you form lots of utilities. That's basically what you form what's called an authority. Virginia created this particular authority back in the 2000s, early 2000s. A number of localities have already availed themselves of it. Roanoke Broadband Authority is one. The Eastern Shore of Virginia Broadband Authority is another. And there's some newer ones forming now. They're all looking to basically provide a public option for broadband service in their respective localities. I mean, mostly because they're not being served by the kind of for-profit corporate telecoms that generally have their modus operandi has generally been to kind of cherry pick. They move into areas where there's high density and or they're higher paying customers, and that's where they concentrate most of their service. So they're generally not in any way incentivized to provide service at a cost that working class, lower class people can afford. So this is a problem. This is nationally recognized as a problem now, and you see this in the the President Biden's about to roll out, or wants to roll out an infrastructure plan where they address these things pretty much head on, and said that the for-profit telecom networks like Comcast, Verizon have failed to provide internet as a utility. So we definitely need to start providing more funding and opportunities for local governments. For in Virginia right now, the electric cooperatives are now heavily getting involved in broadband, providing fiber broadband to their electric customers. So co-ops, municipal governments, nonprofits, whoever is willing to kind of really just build these networks on a non-discriminatory basis and just try to provide service to everyone. Once again, at a cost that's affordable to them. And so frankly, the way this has been moving now is that we've kind of gotten the county boards, our own county boards' attention now, pointing to some of these other models that are out there just in Virginia alone. Alexandria, for instance, their Information Technology Commission just advised their city council and mayor to form a broadband authority because they're looking to build a public network of their own. They've actually been kind of covetously viewing Arlington's public network for quite a while and have been looking to try to build their own. But the difference between Arlington and Alexandria would be that if Alexandria forms a broadband authority and to build that public network, they would then be able to provide service to private customers. And Arlington, unfortunately, formed its broadband. It built its internet network based on a different part of the law. So they cannot legally at this point, without forming a separate broadband authority, they cannot use the existing public network to hook up private subscribers. So that's what the necessity of a broadband authority would be. So all that said is that through our lobbying and through our kind of consciousness building, we have gotten the county board to acquiesce, and in the latest budget, they have now passed. They included about $50,000 to do a feasibility study, which will look at the ins and outs of setting up an authority and then using it, in particular, to start building a public option of fiber to the home internet service, to anyone who wants it here in the county.
One final item before we go. Governor Ralph Northam announced that 70% of adults 18 years and older in Virginia have now received at least one dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. Virginia is the 16th state in the nation to meet this goal and has reached the key vaccination milestone 2 weeks ahead of the nationwide July 4th target. And that concludes this week's show. We will be back next week with more news from Arlington. Meanwhile, be careful, be safe, and be well.